Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me in the next session. This is exciting times during the Global Entrepreneurship Week and of course and beyond. What I'd like to do is just take a minute to say thank you for being here. I appreciate your commitment to entrepreneurship and appreciate you being here with us today. This session, as you may know, is about global trade mission and STEMpreneurship. This session is really focused on youth development, although it can be applied to many other stages, and we have done it for, adults. This was really focused on entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs for youth. And the program was designed for mainly high school. We've done it in middle school here and there and college school as well. So what is this all about? I'm going to take you on a tour of our Connecting Dots Globally. It's a nonprofit that is focused on youth development. And there are two programs there. They could be both going hand in hand or they could be separated. I'm going to explain them together here in a simplified way, just for the sake of conversation. And it's meant for you to be exposed to some of these ideas that we're hoping you could take some of these ideas and implement them yourself. Obviously, we'd love to have an opportunity to work with you in implementing some of them, and many other ideas hopefully will come out of this discussion. So thanks for being here. So what is GTM? The Global Trade Mission is a program that was designed in the late 90s, and it was designed really for the purpose of engaging youth in, I'm going to call it global trade, entrepreneurship, and global culture, and small business, of course, or business in general. And the reason why it was established initially, because at the time, the president of the US was facing some challenges of finding Americans wanting to work abroad, filling in some embassies openings, and some of the companies internationally were struggling to get Americans to work abroad. So they initially started going to colleges to say, why don't you be interested in some international learning? And they discovered a couple of years later that college may be a little too late for them to be exposed to entrepreneurship, business, culture, global trade, and things of that nature. So they went back and said, can we start it maybe in high school? And that program has been running for years. We were able to evolve it and develop it a couple of years ago, almost 15 now, and take it and change it and modify it and actually create a new program. And that's why we're calling Global Trade Mission or STEMpreneurship, that will address the needs of small businesses in startup world, and specifically in an entrepreneurship world, and specifically in the small business world, in around STEM. Now, the reason why we call it Global Trade Mission, because it does not have to be around STEM. STEMpreneurship is a program that's designed for specifically STEM activities that will activate and involve entrepreneurs in creating startups in the STEM world, means science, technology, engineering, and math, or manufacturing, whatever way you want to look at it. And the GTM could be a retail shop, coffee shop, a restaurant, an international food, right? So the idea is that GTM can be more encompassed, and then the STEMpreneurship can be a sub of that GTM. So we could employ or deploy a program that is STEM focused during the GTM, or we could just leave it GTM and it'll be a little bit more broader. The one I'm going to present today is STEM focused. So please know that the challenges could be changed to food or something else. But in this example, I'm going to use STEM specifics. And what we do is we bring teams of people of 4, put them in bring students teams of 4. We put them in teams with people they've never met before, just on that first day for the program. And then we ask them to solve world problems utilizing local resources. That's hence with the Global Trade Mission. Global problems utilizing local resources. And we call those entrepreneurial global challenges. And then at the end, they have to present to a panel of investors or supporters to pitch their idea about what they want to do with business in a global country or a foreign country, utilizing the local resources they learned about here in their country. What are some of the outcomes? What do you think when you do that to high school students or college students? What do you think the outcome is going to be? Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Entrepreneurship, problem solving. You got it. I'd love to see some of the chats here. So please feel free to add to the chat or text or send a direct message, whatever works for you. Please feel free to do that in the Q&A or in the direct messaging to me, whatever works for you. Teamwork and diversity, absolutely. One of the things we do work on, make sure that the people in that teams of 4 are well diverse. We've gone up to teams of 5 or 6, but we seem to like the spot of teams of 4. And I think the lowest we've ever had is teams of 3. And of course, there's a global exposure to the cultures and what's going to happen. So sure, you want to do this idea in this one country, but do you understand the cultural implication of what you're trying to do? Those kinds of things are part of the discussion. So immersing them right away in the global setting. And of course, this is all interactive, right? There's no theory behind the information that will be shared about what problem that we're trying to solve. And then the rest of it is all practice, because now as a team, they have to work together to solve that problem or to address that challenge that we're giving them. And the good news is we always get volunteers from the business community to come speak or engage them. And then the resource that we use are all local businesses that are in that challenging space that we're describing, to show them what resources are available in the community that they could be leveraging to solve this global challenge. And then, of course, we do talk about all kinds of theory stuff, like PEST would be one of them. So what are some of the things that could be implicated when you're doing this kind of business around the world? Of course, politically, economically, socially, technologically, you're trying to deploy in a specific country, and then maybe the technology is not there to support, or the infrastructure is not there to support, or maybe socially is not accepted of what you're trying to do. You're trying to, address family issues, or you're trying to address or use maybe material from a natural thing that people might think that is, uncool to touch it. So there are all kinds of things that could be addressed as we go through this. And the premise of this, and I know that there are like now 9 Ps and 4 Ps and 6 Ps. We're talking about here the 4 Ps of marketing, which is the product, the place, the price, and the promotion. And we take those and dig really deep on them. While I acknowledge that there are now many others like service and process, and this is why I said, there are sometimes more than the 4 Ps. We're sticking to the basics because of this is usually an intensive program that we've done in as little as 2 days and as big as 13 weeks. And we've done it before in a year-round program, but that takes a little bit more energy to make sure that it's cultivated in that way for the purposes that we're trying to accomplish here. So overview of the program will be really simple. We're going to do some cross-cultural communications, because now these teams have to present into other countries. So we usually bring in individuals to speak about those cultures. They're going to have to learn about the 4 Ps, and each one of the individuals that will be going through it will have to learn how to pick one of these 4 Ps and dig deep into that section. We actually have 120 some pages that they will receive part of the program that they have to dig through and understand some of the concepts. And then most of it is worksheets, but some of it is information to help them understand how to answer it. And it's not general information. This is exactly the information that they need as they need them to develop this solution for the problems that we're going to address. And in this time, I'm using this as an example. We could talk about IoT or cybersecurity. We could talk about cybersecurity challenges. We could talk about types of controls. And we're going to talk a little bit about the team challenge work that they have to work together through that process. We could break this in days, like day 1, day 2, day 3. We could do it into week 1, week 2, week 3. We could do it in 13 weeks. We could do it any form or shape. The total hours that are usually takes to make this work is about 30 to 40 hours. So you could divide it up into, those as far as curriculum delivered, right? But as far as work needed, you could go as high as 400 hours or 40 hours, just depending on how much we want them to be engaged in the process of doing this. Then after the days that they go through the program, they have to do a final presentation, like I mentioned. And then there, of course, there are some certificates and some awards. We break the world in, usually in these kind of, bigger categories: Africa and the Middle East, Asia, Australia and North America, Europe and South America. And based on that, we assign the students into these regions to solve these problems or challenges. We call them challenges because sometimes they're not a problem. The challenges in these regions, utilizing the resource that we talked to them about in the sessions before. So now they're assigned to a region. Although we sometimes give them the opportunity to choose the region, we sometimes assign them to the regions that they chose the least. So we ask them to rank 1 to 5 what regions they want to be in, and occasionally, intentionally, we go and give them the opposites of that ranking of what they get assigned. Part of it is really helping them understand that sometimes you don't get what you wish for, and sometimes you have to work through challenges that are beyond your control. Remember, we're thinking about and focus on entrepreneurship mindset and entrepreneurship skills. So this year, as an example, here's just some of the challenges that we have done so far. And again, these are challenges that we drum up based on our knowledge and insights in these regions, and then we ask them to solve them for that region. The deliverables for these participants in the program, and again, you could do this on your own. I'm giving you the framework. Remember that you could do this and employ something different, but this will give you an idea of how our program works, and you're welcome to copy it. Of course, we would love to be in the conversations, deploying it in your city or your country. But of course, I'm also here to share it with you in any way that you think might fit you best to use some of this knowledge to deploy it on your own. The outcomes will be a one-page executive summary that they could hand out. And of course, the presentations, usually 3-minute presentations to a panel of judges in reference to what they have done. Now, we always have returning students because we've been doing this for so long. So we usually have second and third and fourth year comers back, and they have usually different challenges. I'm going to give you an example of some of them. Some of the times in the second years, we give them to do a SWOT analysis for the region based on the industry that we discussed and based on what exists today as far as businesses in that region. Third year comers, sometimes we have them work actually with actual businesses that are trying to export a product or service, and they come up with an export plan for them. How does that exactly work for these 4 Ps? Here's exactly what we do. We ask each one of the people that we assign to take a role within that, challenge that we're trying to solve and say, are you going to develop a product? Are you going to worry about the supply chain management of piece of it? Are you going to worry about, the sales and marketing for it? Or are you going to worry about the finance? And you can just see from this glimpse right away that now they're talking about all kinds of things that STEM and non-STEM can be related to this, just the foundations of the global trade mission. And remember, I used 5 challenges earlier that are on STEM. But those challenges could be opening restaurants or buying coffee or serving coffee in countries. So think about that as well. So now as they go through this, each one of these, by the way, categories that we have a 2-page job description that are questions that they should be asking if they are in that role. Supply chain management, understanding maybe the exchange rate, understanding turfs, right? There might be some opportunities where they could do for a free trade agreement in a country versus going to another country that may not have a free trade agreement with the US. These kinds of concepts are something that they all have to learn and understand. And then, of course, they have to talk to each other because a supply chain person can't do all those things without talking to the finance and understanding how much would that add to it. And then they couldn't do that without talking to the marketing and selling person because that might change the price or how much they should be marketing it for. And they couldn't do that without talking to the product team because they need that. So you can see how it all works together. And then, of course, the last thing I wanted to mention is the presentation. I mentioned earlier, it's a 3-minute presentation that they have to do. And please, again, as I'm going through this, I already see some people raising hands or whatever. Please either ask questions in the chat or pen us or whatever you need. I'm happy to answer, all right? You don't have to wait till the end. 3-minute presentation. All team members have to, present some kind of capacity. So whether they handle the Q&A or they speak during those 3 minutes, that's part of the judging that they all participate, or does 1 or 2 participate. And again, people tell me, Ferris, people never have to pitch businesses, and the truth is probably maybe not. Okay, but people who want to be entrepreneurs have to be uncomfortable a lot of times. And the goal part of this program is to make sure that they're uncomfortable. There are many things that we do throughout the program, from veto to policy changing to everything else in between, that are implemented and embedded in the program to make sure that they feel and live the entrepreneurship journey versus having structure that is set in stone and move forward with it. Although I love having a structure, and we do have a structure, we have a structure that has in it unstructured things to make sure that they understand that entrepreneurs don't just usually have it the way they like it. Sometimes have to move with things as they come. Great example of that would have been COVID, right? One could have planned for it, but being aware that these things could happen, what can you do with what you face versus stopping, right? And that's really what we are trying to do here. Part of it is making sure that the individuals going through our programs live the entrepreneurial life, not talk about it. And then, of course, there'll be some evaluations and some feedback. We do look for teams that will be, highlighted and showcased. We do give an sportsmanship award for the participants, and usually we're looking for these kind of categories, and there's usually a judging team of individual that goes around and kind of like observe what's happening, and some of them are known, some of them are unknown, because we're trying to figure out who's doing or not doing it, and we don't want to make sure that they're just doing it because we're there. So that's one of the things that we do, is we give some of these awards as well. In summary, they're usually in like 2 to 3 days, these students are participating in such activities, and they have to, showcase all this work right away to participant, the judges, with those solutions. So they're exposed to some global challenges. They're asked to come up with solutions, and they're asked to present them in all usually less than 2 to 3 days. Like I said earlier, we've done it usually in a 5-day challenge. We've done it in a 13-week challenge. So it's really up to how we structure it. And I'm hoping that you're learning some of this stuff and saying, can I do this in my classroom right now with what I have? And can you modify it in a way that you can do it on your own? Feel free to do it on your own. Of course, we would love to join you if that's possible, or there's an opportunity for us to collaborate with you in such programs. And I will say that this is usually, it's the first time meeting with each other, so we usually don't try to do it in the same school district. And if we do, we try to mix them up in a way that just to make them a little uncomfortable, but it's best suited when you're mixing it up with other school districts. That's the best way to do it. Clearly, I could talk about this for the next 3 hours, but I'm sure you have other things to do, and I'm sure that you would like to ask some questions. So I want to give a little bit more time for questions to see if there are any questions or any comments that you would like to have. And let's go grow. Let's go global. Again, my contact information is right here for those who would be interested in staying in touch. And of course, as usual, like any other programs, we would love to hear your feedback or thoughts. So please feel free to provide that if that's okay with you.